Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry. Have your businesses, in your opinion, become more sound, financially sound, more operationally tight over time?
Yes.
What were the key things you started doing to get to that point?
I think that for me, becoming more confident in my abilities in the business, right? So at first, when we opened up 23, we had no idea what we were doing. Yeah. We were just like hanging on for deal lives. We're like icing down beers in 3 bays. We're like, oh my God, what are we doing? How are we going to do this? How are we getting orders? Like it is so fast and furious, and we're really trying to just keep up with unlocking the door and locking the door at the end of business and just the operations. So I think the more comfortable we've gotten with the process of opening, then we've been able to focus really on the metrics more and have those, we call them weekly snapshots that show the performance of the restaurant. But I think that's really what's allowed us that opportunity is A, work with really talented people that are able to stabilize business way faster. B, surround ourselves with really smart people that understand how the metrics should look. And then C, allow ourselves the ability to actually get the data that we need out of these restaurants to provide to the management so then they can run even more sound restaurant management.
Do you know the evolution and what that looked like? Like, were there certain things that you started implementing in your business, say, I don't know, 5 years in, then 10 years in, and now where are you today? Like, what does that evolution look like? That's
a really good question. So I think that we used to have these like really rudimentary Excel workbooks. Yeah. And on it was like what we call our daily sales report, our DSR. And you enter in, you key in all of the sales, your credit cards, your cash, your voids, your comps, whatever that might look like, all your credit cards, all the things go into that. And it builds out, basically an end of day report. And that was an Excel worksheet. Tied into that was like your schedule. So you knew your labor, and tied into that was your food, like order guide, and showed you food. But I mean, you're talking about like,
it's a lot of data entry.
It's a lot of data entry, and managers are like, this is insane.
You get one number wrong too, it throws off the entire system.
And that's like, it's 4 a.m, someone's closing out, and they just superimpose a number, but they're there for an extra hour. And you're like, no, just leave. We'll figure it out in the morning. Yeah. But managers, myself included, we don't want to do that. We don't leave it for somebody else to do. Yeah. So that was like the first system. Out of that came this thing called the daily snapshot that we use. The weekly snapshot that we use. So you take that
data entry.
It gives you a report. The next manager meeting, which we do every week, you took that report and you said, here are the metrics from the restaurant. You hit your sales goals. You missed your food cost goals. You did all, but that's the sheet that we used. So that was like phase 2. But again, it's all based off of this really rudimentary Excel workbook that was prone to error. And so like we were hand doing inventories, all of these things. And so, but while that was step 1, and then this weekly snapshot with Excel was step 2, that was a massive shift, right? Like even to get step 1 was hard. Weekly snapshots was really hard, and we did it.
What was hard about the weekly snapshot?
It's hard because it's the accumulation of hundreds and hundreds of entries on a weekly basis. And if any one of them was wrong, your snapshot report was wrong. Yeah. And it was wrong every week. It was close enough to get the essence of what we're talking about, but it wasn't like perfect because inherently someone's going to make a mistake.
Now, what was your objective with the weekly snapshot?
Cheer the managers on, or have the conversations like, what do we need to fix this, right? What are we going to do? We cannot waste. We cannot run a 50% food cost. It will not work as a business. And then give people the power to make those adjustments. Yeah, you have to track it, because if you don't track it, you don't know if you're trending in a good direction or a bad direction, right?
Yeah. So when you saw that something was trending in a bad direction, what was the process to get it going in the right direction?
Conversations, and then putting our head down and doing the work to fix it, right? Okay. So when we bought merchants, the reason we bought merchants, and I'm just going to give a quick snapshot and I'll tell you the point of this, but we bought merchants because they were going to do what some restaurants do, which is absolutely terrible. They were going to close and not tell anybody. They were going to padlock the door. They'd have 70 employees show up to the business and they couldn't go in, right? It felt terrible. Yeah. We had Paradise Park next door. And we had the opportunity to walk into merchants, not even close the business. So we walked in on a Sunday at midnight and said, we're your new owners. We closed the deal Sunday at midnight or whatever it was. Walked in on Monday morning to an all-staff meeting and said, we're your new owners, and here's the vision for this restaurant. We're going to try and keep it open as long as we can. But we had no real capital at that point to do this. So I moved my office into the prep kitchen. And every order that came in went under IRA board. We were declining budget, the whole 9. And that's really rudimentary and very simple. But when metrics start going off, sometimes it's just getting back to the basics. And those are the conversations that you have with managers and chefs and people that are affecting these. Is we said, let's go just 1 week. Let's track this. Let's see what it looks like. How can we fix this? And then it's a give and take relationship, right? Hey, I don't think this menu item should be on here because it's costing too much. Okay, cool. What replaces it? Or why are we wasting all this food? Or why are we ordering all this stuff? And so to me, it's a team of people, again, aligned to the common goal or the mission, and then working together to fix it. But you have to have the information, to your point, to actually know that you're fixing something.
Yeah. What gets tracked gets measured. What gets measured gets minded or something like that. I can't remember. There's a bunch of sayings out there. But so you start with the spreadsheet, and then you go from the spreadsheet tracking all this, getting all this data. Then you go to the weekly meetings where you're basically saying, here's where we are now. Here's where we said we would be. Did we do it? No. Why or why not? What's the correction? Let's get it right the next week, right? Yep. What happened after that?
We did third-party liquor, beer, and wine inventory to give us a theoretical cost and actual cost. And then at that point, after that, then we got a bookkeeper internally that would verify the weekly snapshots that said, you know what? They're not perfect, but they're pretty damn close. And this will tell you the story that you need to know right now of the restaurant without having to close the books out, right? Because that's a whole process.
Would you have gone to, knowing what you know now, would you have gotten the accountant first and then the inventory management? Or do you think you went in the right order? Inventory management, then accountant?
I think having a controller or a bookkeeper or an accountant is probably the really, really smart move. Especially for people in the industry like my brother and I, we're in the restaurants and we're grinding it out, and our focus is not always on the numbers at times when we're that young and just doing that. I think having someone minding the P's and Q's on that is a really, really good move.
And what happened for you and your brother when you did get that? What did that mean for you and your brother?
Stability and structure and making sure that we weren't missing stuff.
Got it. So growing beyond this, so now you're relying less on people, more on, people, but you're outsourcing, right? What was determining when you outsourced? Was it somebody saying you should really outsource for this, or was it a matter of getting the cash flow so you could outsource for it?
Cash flow.
Okay.
Yep.
Was there an evolutionary point beyond getting to that point where you're outsourcing and getting inventory management as far as tech stack goes and the evolution of systems and processes?
I've never used the word tech stack until very recently, right? But I also am somewhat naive in we used to be point of sale agnostic. We just wanted the cheapest thing we could get that would work and that our staff would enjoy.
Has your opinion changed on that?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I realized I made a lot of mistakes previously. Yeah, I mean,
why is that not the way to go?
I think that for us, we have multiple restaurants operating, and it's way easier to train staff when you're running the same systems in all the restaurants. It's way easier to pull reports out. It just makes life simpler. And while it might be, in this case it's not, but it might be slightly more expensive on the POS setup, you're saving 10 times that amount of money on everything else.
Where and how are you saving the money?
Mistakes and loose ends. So if for example, we were running 5 different POS systems amongst our restaurants.
You talk about the importance of, standards, right? And consistency with your menu. Why would that be different in the back of house as far as consistency, as far as making your life easier, streamline, right?
Right. It's a POS system. And here's the honest truth. We inherited systems, right? So we bought a used Micros system at Bar 23. So Micros was it.
Yeah.
And then we didn't have any money when we did the music venue, so we used the touch cash registers because it was a live music venue. Yeah. And then I felt like I had to upgrade to Aloha at Paradise Park, right? And then we used all of these different. You just sort of inherit some systems. You get to know some sales reps that convince you this program is different, and before you know it, you look up and you're like, none of my restaurants are on the same damn platforms.
I just can only imagine for whoever's responsible, your accountant, for getting all these different reports coming in the format's different. Maybe I don't know. I've never had to do that, and I've never had the same experience you've had with such different systems. But I can only imagine that kind of causing troubles down the line, right? Or causing problems for wherever that information is going as far as streamlining process.
100%.
So now that you just recently started with a new tech stack. What did you guys decide to go with?
So we haven't done it. We haven't made a change yet,
you
right?
have?
So we are putting Toast POS in all of our restaurants, which
Okay.
most of them had already had Toast POS, but there are a few outliers that did not. Well, that they are all getting Toast POS.
Yeah.
And with Toast comes the ability to sort of build on top of this cloud-based system that just allows things to be simpler.
Got it. I mean, there's a lot of great
Man,
options.
that sounds nerdy, doesn't it? That is not the the sexiest part of this business.
But I mean, that we got to get into the nerdy stuff, and it helps. And it's funny because like within Restaurant Unstoppable Network right now, which is the community that's behind this podcast, where we kind of get together and discuss the things that we're talking about right now. I would lean in the direction of, say, when it comes to technology, like cash flow kind of determines. You need to know how to do everything without technology, right? I think you should have a rudimentary understanding of how things work in case things go down or whatever, in case there's a solar flare and all technology crashes at once, like your business still needs to go on or whatever. You should know how your business runs. And I would have said, start with something like QuickBooks and then graduate to like a Restaurant 365 or something like that. But now I have people who are kind of arguing and saying, hey, because of the future of the industry and because of how much we're going to rely on technology and because of technology being, we got to think that technology might replace the majority of our workforce, our human equities, and become technological equity, right? So you need that consistency. You need to be able to really lean on that because we might have to, because it's hard to lean on people right now, right? So you need that security. So you need to think from day one, what is the future and how are we going to be prepared for the future? And maybe now it's time to budget, just like you have to budget to buy a stove to cook whatever it is you're cooking. You got to budget to buy the tech stack to support your business in the future. And it's hard. There's a shift that's happening right now where you really have to. Do you agree with what I'm saying, or like what's going through your mind?
I do agree with it. What I'll tell you though is I think that it doesn't matter whether it's, I opened a place when I was 23. I'm 42 now. When I opened the place, it was almost all cash. It was a lot of cash transactions, not almost all, but it was a lot of cash transactions. I was writing checks out of a checkbook at the time to give to distributors, COD. Then we transitioned to QuickBooks. We were running payroll. But now you can build that nerdy tech stack. The only thing that I would say is it doesn't matter which path you go as long as you know the granular details of how those things work. And that is the thing that I've learned. I am so blessed by the lessons I've learned early on in my career because I've done all of that, right? I've written the checks. I've had to run the P&Ls. I've had to pay the liquor tax and the sales tax. I've had to run payroll myself. I've had to do those things. So I understand what the goal is, what the outcome should be, whether I was good enough to do it or not. But if you're building a tech stack, it's very easy to sit passively and listen to the installers or the reps that are like, it's easier to do it this way. But if you don't understand what that easy way is built upon, there's a lot of mistakes that can go into that.
Yeah.
And to me, making sure that whatever path you go down, which technology is 100% the future here.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I feel very fortunate that I understand all of those building blocks in which that technology is built upon to make sure that I'm not getting bamboozled.
Yeah. But I mean, you think of like 10 years from now, right? When it is so status quo to open with a tech stack, right? Because so much of your business is going to be dependent on that. Do you think we're going to be in trouble when people don't know how to run a business if their tech crashes?
I think for sure some people will be.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is no doubt. And not only when tech crashes, but it may not be built. Like even when you talk about programming a point of sale system, that can be programmed 100 different ways. And unless you understand what you're looking for at the outcome, you may be programming your entire POS system that doesn't even allow you to get an accurate inventory.
Yeah.